Welcome to Three, a show about Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, and part of the Tennis Channel podcast network. I'm Gill with Joel Drucker and Amy Lundy. This is a show that is meaningful and one that, man, brings a lot. Roger Federer has announced that Laver Cup next week will be the end of his competitive tennis career. He announced it on social media, and look, I just want to say right off the bat, it feels so daunting to try to say everything that we want to say about Roger Federer in this podcast. In fact, it's so daunting. We know it's impossible and it's never going to happen. The Roger Federer discussion and our feelings on him and what he's meant to so many aspects of the things we discuss on this show. In episodes to come, we will continue to work on this. But for now, let's dig into this immediate news. Amy and Joel. Amy, you and I know specifically after that Wimbledon match against Hurkacz, we were very confident that that wasn't the end. And in retrospect, we were not correct. What happened here?
First of all, it wasn't. He's playing Laver Cup. I don't know if he knew if it was the end or not. He needed to go through this process, and I just wanted to listen to what he was saying.
Yeah.
And I think I was justified or correct in what I said, because it's taken over a year for him to come to this conclusion. I spoke to my brother this morning, who we've had on this show. He's a surgeon, and he himself has had knee surgery. And, I said, what's really the deal here? Why did Roger have to retire, other than the obvious of age? And, it's a cartilage injury that there's no simple fix for it. Knee replacement may be in his future. And right now, at this point in time, medical technology does not have Andy Murray's hip replacement notwithstanding, and Tommy John surgery on an elbow for Major League Baseball players notwithstanding. We just don't have a good fix for cartilage injury right now. So Federer probably saw what Serena just went through, which is a very positive retirement send-off, and decided that perhaps this was the right time.
Do you think I wonder how he thought about it, his body and his reacting, whether it was the practicing and the pain. I mean, he obviously so wanted to play, and it was so unclear. I mean, we knew this day would come. We've known this for a while, but it's still kind of striking, isn't it? It's just kind of jarring.
Yeah, I mean, I think what ended up happening was, the false comeback in 2021, right? And I say it was a false comeback because, he didn't come back only to go have more knee operations, right? And that's why it was kind of a false comeback. This next phase was kind of a medical Hail Mary, is kind of how I see it. And, the fact that Roger isn't playing Basel is so telling to me about where his knee is at, because obviously he wants to play Basel, but he can't play singles right now, is what that tells me. And he's going to go to Laver Cup, and he's going to get to take the court in, the environment and with the all-time greats that he has shared his career with. And he's going to get that moment, which will be meaningful. But in reality, we know, or I would anticipate, that the knee is not good. At the end of the day, Joel, the body said no mas here. And of all the different kinds of retirements that we see from athletes, this is one of them, right?
This is the most important. This is the usual one.
Yeah.
This is usually the one. It's the body tells you, and the body tells you in certain ways. And we don't know the extent of, does the body mean can't play at all? Does the body mean can't play for too long? Does the body say can't practice? I mean, that's also a big thing in tennis. in tennis, you got to be able to play the whole game. So it's a whole different kind of ending of the career. I mean, in the team sports, they have to be ready to go, but in the team sports, they can become role players. They can play a few minutes. They can kind of manage it, but you really can't do that. You can't do that at all in tennis. So I will probably learn at some point from Federer what that meant. And it's probably all of those things together. I couldn't practice too long, couldn't play long, the body's not cooperating.
Gill, it's interesting to me that you see that last few months that he played in 2021 as a false comeback, because I kind of see it as a last burst of a shooting star, because I really enjoyed that last burst. I mean, I got so much enjoyment out of watching Roger's few last matches at Roland Garros and the Wimbledon run to the quarterfinals. So I don't really see it as a failed comeback or anything like that. It's just a very cool moment in a storied career. If not the best moment, still a very cool moment.
I'm going to be the King Solomon here and say you're both right. It was both,
Yeah.
right? With some chances to see him, and it's telling, and we look for these signs, we look for these signals of things. Like, I mean, Amy, you're always good at seeing a tweet of a tennis player practice. Oh, wait a second, not quite sure if he's up for it. So it was all part of it, and it was just, I mean, the last few matches of his career, and who knows? I mean, I think sure we were holding out hope he's going to be ready in 2023. He's going to be back, and then he knew better than all of us, as he has all along. I think it's interesting, Gill, we were talking about this your whole life. You've never not known Roger Federer as a professional tennis player, correct?
That's very correct. It's extremely correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that feel? How does that feel? I mean, that's different for you than it is for, I'm older than you, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I've fully processed it. I felt similar with Serena a couple weeks ago, where I haven't known a world without Serena, but just thinking about all of the influences that Roger has had on me, it's very, very significant, because, you know, those formative years, you are more impressionable than any of your remaining years. And that impression was this era of tennis with the big three, right? I want to get into all of our, you know, some of our most cherished memories and Roger and stuff, but going back to some of the more retirement specific stuff, he penned a pretty long message. He thanked a lot of people. It was very comprehensive. It was not short. I want to give us a chance to respond to that. Was there anything that he said that particularly caught your eye, Amy?
You mean like thanking the sponsors? No, I'm
mean,
kidding. I'm going to answer that question. I just want to take a second to acknowledge all our Federer fans around the world, including those who like Federer and respect him, but maybe aren't a huge fan. They may be feeling like an emptiness today. Like, I feel that way. I feel like it was being hit by a slow moving bus or something. You knew it was coming. You saw it down the road. It's coming toward you, but it doesn't hurt. The impact does not hurt any less. It's still a really hard day for a lot of people. He meant a lot to so many people. In terms of his message, I mean, I thought it was typical Roger. He didn't forget anybody. He didn't leave anyone out. It was eloquent. It was polished. It was well done and pretty indicative of who he is as a person.
Well, his appreciation for the game, I think one of the things of his biggest legacies, how much big part of his legacies, how much he just loves the game overall, and the respect and the regard he has for it. And it's fitting enough that the event that he's going to play next is an event he created to honor another legend in Rod Laver. So his whole kind of 360 engagement and appreciation with the sport, with the people who play it, his own. I mean, look, we've seen over the years, Gill, before Amy and I met you, we were doing our podcast. You remember, Amy, that video that we saw was on Periscope of Roger practicing, and he was like a 14-year-old boy just going out to play and working on his moves and doing his stretches. And I think the joy, I mean, that's kind of nice too. I mean, we see athletes like all of us, go through periods of being jaded and being, upset. And that was never Roger. I mean, there are periods obviously of challenge and struggle for him, but never this period, oh my God, why am I still even playing? And I think he praised his relationship with the fans for that too. Them to him, him to them, the whole tennis world. I mean, it's so global. It's no wonder this guy was once the second most popular man in the world behind Nelson Mandela.
Yeah. I love that nugget. And yeah, you're right. It never felt hard for him. What stood out to me in his message is that twice he went out of his way to tell everyone that he wasn't done playing tennis, that he wasn't going to play on the tour, that he wasn't going to play any Grand Slams, but he was still going to play more tennis. And he said that in, I think, the second paragraph, so early, and then he ended it that, he said, like, I love tennis and I will never leave it. I will always be a part of it. And to me, it kind of reinforced something that I've thought for a while, which is that Federer is not going to be dependent on the tours to sanction his tennis matches. He can sanction his own match. He is a tour unto himself. And I think we will see, a part of me wants to be sad that Roger didn't get the Serena send-off, at Wimbledon or wherever he would want it to be, even at Basel, whatever, right? That he's not going to get that. And he's going to go to kind of this sudden 2-day long in an arena. It has its own charm to it, Laver Cup, but it's not Wimbledon, right? At the same time, I feel confident that we are going to get more opportunities, and everyone and his fans around the world are going to get opportunities to celebrate him.
Play an exhibition. Did he play an exhibition in South America? Del Potro, 45,000 people. What was the size of that one?
In Cape Town, he got 55,000.
All right. So, let's start the auction. Do I hear 60? There's 65.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you guys think? Do you think could Roger Federer play tennis in front of 100,000 people?
Well, he's doing something with the princess, right? Kate Middleton. He's doing a charity thing with her coming up. So between the two of them, that could be pretty big.
I wonder if Federer could fill a stadium of 100,000 people. He could play with Bill Gates. Like the time I saw him play some exhibition with Bill Gates against, I forget who else was in it, but I don't know. That is nice to hear, and it'll be interesting to see what shape that takes. That said, the competitive Rogers, we know him. I think we won't be that sad.
Gill, can I say something about Laver Cup? Yes, ideally Roger would have said goodbye at Wimbledon, but they did just have this Wimbledon ceremony, and he showed up in a suit and looked fantastic and was feted and all that. But there is something special and cool about Laver Cup. Let's forget the marketing and business aspects that he was involved in launching it. No, that's just sort of what it is. But what is the cool thing about saying goodbye at this particular event at this particular time that relates to our show?
They're all going to be there.
That's right. What perfect, right? Because just as he, of course, has his own legacy and achievements and accomplishments, he is also part of this triumvirate that is unprecedented in sport. So in a way, it does kind of fit. And I think it's fabulous that hopefully, if everything's okay with Nadal and his wife and all that, hopefully Djokovic and Nadal will be there to properly celebrate him.
Yeah, a part of me wonders if Nadal would have even gone had Roger Federer not made this announcement.
Well, that's true. We were talking about that last time. We were wondering about what Nadal's autumn is going to be like, and then we said, well, it's a plane to London, and let's see. And yeah, so right, it's kind of like it's like the Beatles on the rooftop, or one kind of look at them to see together. Boy, that's going to be some set of photo ops and doubles and practice. And the great thing is the Laver Cup kind of configured itself for that kind of inside look at these tennis players, all the cameras and the talking and the coaching. And yeah, that's going to be really fun to see. And I think it's going to show yet again, Roger's delight in tennis in all of its formats.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's transition maybe to, and I think this will be an easier thing to talk about, and an easier thing to listen to as well, and watch for everyone. What makes Roger Federer so unique and special to this game? And a lot of people are going to talk about the numbers. The numbers are cool. We all know the numbers for each one of the big three. But going beyond that, there is something incredibly connective and something infectious, where the tennis itself that Roger was able to play was something that meant a lot and was very gravitational for a lot of players out there. Joel, what do you think that thing was about? Why was Federer's tennis itself so fan friendly?
Federer's game was as complete as any player who played. And so what you get to see, the fun of tennis is seeing players smoothly win many points in many ways. And who created more of a highlight reel of different ways, of different combinations, of different sequences. We like seeing that and doing it with such grace and balance. I mean, people who didn't even know tennis at all could connect with what Federer did on the court. The Baryshnikov movements, the smoothness, all these different ways and these different ways. And also there was something very clinical in a comfortable way. Like I've written about this a million times. Federer's opponents, even themselves, even the people he beat, they weren't so much beaten. You play Nadal, you're competing. You play Federer, you're being dissected. It's like, oh, he has your file. He'll be with you shortly. And then the player himself, the opponent even became a witness to like, look what this guy's just doing to me. I'm going to be able to tell my grandparents I was with someone who played the game as complete as any, my grandchildren, as complete as anyone who ever played the game. And isn't that incredible? Look at our sport. And it's showing this way of taking our sport to a level of proficiency. I mean, that's what the super genius is. I mean, I've studied the geniuses over the last 100 years, and they take it to a new level, and they carry a lot of other things with them. I mean, you see the whole history of the game with Federer, and then he moves it forward to create his own. So that's part of what made him, I mean, no tennis player has been swooned over more than Roger Federer.
Right. Amy, what did you love about his tennis?
There's just a quality that has yet to be really put into words, although tip of a cap to you, Joel. That was really good what you just said. There's a magic or a way that he moves or a way that he does it that is paradoxical to his stone cold dominance. It's like, wow, how can something be so beautiful and elegant and light and ethereal and so just like mean in the way that he beat everybody up, down, and all around. So it was the way that he did it and the combination of those two factors that really make him the great that he is.
Well, in that sense, and you look at other athletes, Muhammad Ali was the float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. And Federer, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there is power, and certainly plenty of power, particularly if you get even granular, the serve and the forehand. And these were significant weapons that he had. I mean, the case could be made that that's the best forehand ever, maybe.
But did it look? It was powerful, but did it look hard? Did he grit? Did he have to grit his teeth? Was there, it didn't look.
Was there a noise? Was there a grunt?
Exactly.
No.
Joy excellence in many forms.
Was he sweating? No. I think there is I don't want to say an obsession, but there is something to be said for athletes who make it look easy. I think Steph Curry is kind of a Roger Federer parallel in that way, where there's not a lot of strain there and there's an efficiency. I think efficiency was a big deal. Efficiency of movement, efficiency of finishing points on his own terms, shortening points even when necessary. Everything was done in a way that was the shortest and most productive way possible, the most efficient way possible. And there's an idealism to that. Like I, as a player, fell into that when I was a young player, there was a point in time where I was like, what do I want my game to be? I want it to be like that. I want to hit aces, come to net, hit beautiful drop volleys, hit forehand winners on my +1 balls. Like, I want everything to look perfect. Like, I wanted that. And then I stopped going for that. I stopped trying to achieve that because I didn't think it actually was within my abilities to really play that way. And I started to think about, well, maybe I should figure out ways to for my opponent to miss before I miss, instead of trying to play the most efficient tennis possible.
Well, wait, I'm going to take something here. There's no dichotomy between this. And by the way, Roger Federer is tremendously disruptive. And I think your vision of that, Gill, those are desired outcomes of winners and aces. I don't think that's what Roger Federer set about to do. I think what he set about to do was, you're right, play the game efficiently, build points in the way based on his skills and his vision, his picture of the game that he got from a very young age. And I think, yeah, the effortlessness, yes, we do like that. And you realize how much hard work it takes to make it look that smooth, how much work he put in to make it that pruned, that efficient. I mean, of course he had to deal with Mercedes, right? I mean, it's like, it is incredible, well chiseled, well crafted, but he was a disruptor. I mean, Federer, it's funny. I did an article a few years ago called Winning Ugly Revisited. And I talked to Brad Gilbert about Winning Ugly. And I said, I want to talk to you, Brad, about this guy. Sometimes he chips his foreign returns. He slices his backhand. He serves pretty well, but not as fast as a lot of the other guys. He says, yeah, I know who you're talking about. That's Roger. Winning ugly pretty. Winning ugly, the short slice backhand, the wide slice serve, the occasional, he kind of ditched at a certain point, the chip charge, the saber, the chip charge return, doing all these little things. He's kind of like cutting you apart. He's kind of carving you to ribbons in certain ways. And then boom, the forehand can really terminate, but it's very, very attractive.
Yeah. How many times did you watch a Federer match over the course of his career and go, I had no idea that he knew how to do that, or that he could do it so artfully? I just thought that the forehand was something into itself. I mean, who among us hasn't gone out on the court and tried to emulate, to the head still looking at the hand down to the frame, of exactly what Roger was doing with his forehand, the turn of the wrist, the finish, the follow through. I mean, right now, just as an aside, I'm working on an article about Emma Raducanu and how, she's got these blisters that she's been dealing with on her hands. And I think she's working very hard and giving herself blisters, just hitting ball after ball after ball. Did Roger Federer ever have a blister? I mean, it's just like perfection in every, detail.
Always the thing with Federer, and if you want, we could talk more about this too. Also, watching him around tournaments for more than 20 years, always downhill, always this sense, like this whole way he managed the whole energy of being expected to be good. Obviously, this first 2 years, he had to work to find his, find it. It took him a little while before he hit the high gear, but never looking rushed, and kind of like the way, I've learned this from tennis lessons. You have more time than you think. Always have more time than you think, both to hit the ball, to prepare for it. Why rush when you could just be there? A little bit makes you think of Wayne Gretzky from hockey, just his awareness of it, his present mindedness, his comfort. I've seen this guy in buffet lines just kind of hanging out with his, tray, waiting to get his salad. You see him at the at Wimbledon. They have this big media day, and you got to go through this whole gauntlet of broadcast interviews where a lot of us are asking the same questions in their different languages, and he's completely chilled out with it, and he recognizes that, and that's kind of who he is, regardless of being number one in the world or not. Just this whole downhill. I've heard stories from people who've had to reshoot something with him when the camera died, and he's fine to do it again. He's just so chill, just finding the chill. And then, as you said, Amy, the game is not going out there and swatting balls on a Sunday morning with your buddy. I mean, we've seen enough. The great thing about Federer, I think there's enough footage. We're in an era of some great footage, like the Tennis Channel Strokes of Genius documentary that John Wertheim worked on and was produced, and other ones you show right up close. It's a tough game. You got Nadal, you got Novak, you got all these guys hitting to you. You got to move.
Yeah. As much as we have we try to encapsulate what Roger Federer was about from an outsider's perspective, it's always a personal journey, right? So let's get into that a little bit and kind of our experiences with Roger Federer from a personal standpoint. Amy, maybe we start with you. Are there Roger Federer memories that are very specific to you that stick out, that perhaps came to mind today when you realized that it was going to be over very quickly?
Yeah, there's just briefly two things, and one has to do with an on-the-court accomplishment, and the other is a more personal story. So the first thing is that as a fan, not as a professional, but as a fan, Roger was not my favorite earlier in his career. To me, it was like he was just winning everything, and I always kind of liked the underdog. Well, then the script kind of flipped because there were so many calls for Roger's retirement in the mid stages of his career that he became the underdog in some ways, especially in my eyes. So my most cherished memory of him was when he won the Australian Open in 2017, when, like you said, Joel, we saw that ebullient video of him coming back to tennis, and I really related to that, and I pulled for him as a fan, and he got the job done. He accomplished it in thrilling fashion, and then that ushered in a whole new era of Roger becoming number one in the world again and being dominant. So that was my most cherished memory. But then just personally, I have a friend and colleague named PJ Simmons who founded the Tennis Congress, which is really an altruistic organization, and it's done a lot for the sport of tennis. So PJ, the founder, was turning 50, and as Tennis Congress, we always had this expression that Tennis Congress was like Switzerland because it was neutral. It didn't give any more credence to one coaching philosophy or area of tennis than any other. And when we would come up against conundrums, we would always say, we're Switzerland, we're Switzerland. So PJ was turning 50, and I thought the perfect gift would be a flag of Switzerland signed by Roger Federer. Well, we contacted Federer's office, and he doesn't sign flags, okay? Like, it's very... He will only sign a piece of paper that is 8.5 by 11. He has very strict rules. Otherwise, he just gets inundated, and it's crazy. Well, we hemmed and hawed, and we were like, it's got to be a flag of Switzerland. You know, it's got to be. Shortly before PJ's birthday, we get a flag of Switzerland in the mail that says, to PJ, happy 50th, with love, Roger Federer.
Wow.
That's great. Yeah. So for that moment, Tennis Congress in Switzerland were all in alignment.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
That's great.
Joel, do you want to go?
Sure. I mean, and I could flashback. Tell you what, you guys want to go the more recent or more back when? Where should I start? I've got two. The early or later?
Do both.
I will, but which one first?
The more recent. Do the early first.
Whoever you like better, Joel.
I was at the Sampras Federer match at Wimbledon in 2001. And that was, and we knew before, you know, it's funny. I don't like it when people say, oh, we knew that was going to be something, because that's kind of reverse engineering. But in this case, when the draw came out, and I remember I was working for TNT covering Wimbledon that year, and I did this little preview for our team. I said something, you know, silky smooth Swiss to play the king. You know, they were on a path to the 16s. And that match was incredible. We all know about that. And I just remember Roger in his press conference like he just had the greatest birthday ever, and he was 19, and he was just exulting in what it had meant for him to have kind of, being the king. And that's one of those neat things that happen in sports. They don't always happen, but when the crossing of the generations, the only time they met, and that was neat. And then you fast forward 17 years. Every year I would take a flight, SFO to London, get off in London. This is a Thursday morning, go to my housing. I go to Wimbledon, kind of set up my workspace, and kind of tired. And then I saw there he was practicing on court 14. It's Roger's practicing with Yuri Vesely, and there are like 10 of us watching him practice. 10. And I watched him practice many times, but it's something special to watch the holder practice at Wimbledon on the grass just before the tournament starts. And I got to sit next to the BBC commentator, Hall of Famer, player, historian, kind of one of my heroes, John Barrett. And we sat and watched Federer, and he's doing his thing, and they're playing points, and they're doing these things. And John, at the same time, I'm asking him to compare Federer to other players in history, with Fred Perry and Laver and this and that. And he's issuing, so I'm getting this fun commentary from John Barrett. We're watching the points. And then he said, he's simply Roger Federer, and it wasn't like there was some shot Federer had hit, but just the whole presence of him. So those are the two experiences I recall, two vivid experiences. I mean, there are many more, but those are two.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah. So what's kind of amazing to me. So, okay, first, I've said this before on the show, and I've tweeted about it also. First match I ever attended was the 2009 U.S. Open final, where Del Potro was the man on that day, not Roger, but still, he was one of the players in my first ever live tennis match. But the moment that kind of sticks out to me above like these epic matches, right? You'd think like, where were you 2019 Wimbledon? I remember that. I was literally in Venice, Italy, at the only Irish sports pub in the entire city of Venice to watch the match, right? So like, you remember these moments where it's big and everyone's talking about it. But one of the things that flashed into my mind today, and it really is one of the cherished memories, is a first round match at the US Open against Brian Daboul. Does that name should not ring a bell? I would not be surprised. I don't know that he ever made the top 100. Brian Daboul was an Argentinian lefty player. It was the first round of the US Open. It was not a competitive match. I don't remember what the score was, but I remember one shot, and I remember I was sitting with my dad. And I remember the lob went over Roger Federer's head, and he had already hit the tweener winner against Novak Djokovic years prior. And, the crowd in anticipation started to rise. The tweener was coming, and boom, he smacks it. It is a clean winner right in the corner. He probably struck it 85, 90 miles per hour. It was a better tweener than the one he hit against Djokovic. And here we are in this very non-competitive first round US Open match at Arthur Ashe Stadium. And Federer can create a magical moment that has still stuck with me to this day against Brian Daboul. I remember there was a standing ovation for about 2 minutes. It was a moment, and I was with my dad, and that was part of it as well. And we enjoyed that shot together. So the gravitational pull of Roger wasn't always, it didn't need to be a major final. It didn't need to be an epic match. He could deliver these moments unto himself. And that was one that was particularly meaningful that I thought about today.
Of many, lots of other memories and lots of other ways of that. I mean, we'll be delving into this more in shows to come about shots and sequences and evolution. I mean, that's the other thing. That's a subplot. I won't belabor it now, but Roger got better. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. That's inspiring.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. We all have the capacity to change, and we know that because we can see what Roger Federer did.
A lot of people are going to be asking us about the show, which of course was started, and our goal was to discuss and chronicle the careers of Roger Federer, Rafael, Nadal, and Novak Djokovic as active players originally. And now that we'll have 2 active players in the fold and 1 retired player, I think we should have this conversation, which, by the way, we have not really had off air. I mean, we've talked about it periodically, but we haven't talked about it today. So, I mean, Joel, I know that you feel like a player who stops playing never goes away as a discussion point.
Well, yes, but it's interesting. Wow, it's interesting. Look at this. We're having like a business meeting on the air. I like it. And so, but I think, for example, I think here we can actually engage in some candor to the whole audience. 3 was never them. 3 is us. We're the 3. So I guess we're gonna see. Yeah, I mean, Federer's it'll be a discussion point, but obviously we need to kind of have some thoughts about how that continues and what we wish to talk about and how, you know, things evolve with Novak and Rafa and et cetera. Also, it kind of makes me think of, is Roger, is he just going to vanish? What else is he going to do? You know, it's always interesting with Federer. It's so interesting how someone is so reliable yet creative, right? Like, for example, as Federer's career evolved and he was a very reliable player, well, who'd have thought it? Oh, okay, bigger racket, new improved backhand, create the Laver Cup. So, you know, put on an exhibition in front of 55,000 people. So who knows? I'm not sure what he's going to go. What's going to happen?
Yes, and I think the world has seen a lot of change lately. You know, the Queen passed away, which people have a lot of really complicated feelings about. And that was another event that we knew was coming, and yet it was profound when it did happen. The answer to, are we going to continue the show? Yes. What form will the show take? The answer is, I don't know. I'm not sure. And it's okay not to have all the answers right on this day that Roger Federer announced his retirement. But one thing I do know, we want to celebrate this moment, and we want to give Federer his due, and the Federer fans and all the things that they saw in him. We want to celebrate this moment. So we're going to do that right now. And then what comes in the next few weeks and months, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much more to discuss. And in terms of the show, I was going to use the exact same phrase. We'll figure it out. And yeah, there are 3 of us, which is convenient, right, Joel? So
that's right. That was the point, of course.
That's what we meant all along.
All along. That's right. That's the plot device. Yeah, they were just the MacGuffin. They were just the path on the way. Yeah, we're the 3. Now it can be revealed.
What is Roger Federer going to do moving forward? How has he influenced the game in terms of what the future of tennis looks like? You know, what do some of his biggest and most important matches teach us and tell us? And you know, what can we revisit about those things? Again, lots more to come, plenty more to discuss. But for now, that'll do it for this episode of 3. Remember, we're available on all podcast platforms. We appreciate it if you leave a rating and a review on Apple. And we will see you next time. Oh, if you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you next time on the next episode of 3.